In 1972, a group of researchers in Toronto set out to prove that ghosts weren't real, so they invented one. They gave him a name, Philip Aylesford, crafted a tragic backstory, a life he never lived, and then they tried to contact him. At first, nothing happened, but as they sat around the table week after week, something strange began to occur. The lights flickered, the table shook, and Philip started to respond, tapping out answers, reacting to questions, even shifting the atmosphere in the room. The researchers knew he wasn't real, but somehow he was still there. How is that possible? How can something imaginary begin to behave as if it's alive? The answer isn't supernatural, it's psychological. Their minds believed, their perception aligned, and that belief was strong enough to create an experience that felt real. Not just subjectively, but physically, emotionally, viscerally real. Which raises a disturbing question. How much of your own life is built on stories that feel real, but never actually were? From the day you were born, you were handed a story, a name, a role, a world. But what if the you who received it was just like Philip, a character created to make the illusion feel complete, a fiction with a heartbeat? You didn't design the story, you inherited it, and the moment you believed it, you became it. But if that identity wasn't truly yours, then who or what have you really been this whole time? 1. The dream began before you were born. Before you even knew how to spell your own name, one was given to you. Not just a name, but an entire framework, a culture, a religion, a nationality. It felt natural, but it was preloaded like software on a brand new device. You didn't choose your identity, it was chosen for you. And the craziest part? You believed it before you even knew what believing meant. The illusion started early, and because everyone else around you shared it, you never questioned it. Imagine being born into a game, handed the rules, and never being told you were allowed to change them. You were taught to see the world a certain way, think a certain way, succeed in a certain way. And you followed it, like most do. But have you ever asked, whose map am I using? Because if the map was drawn by someone else, what kind of destination are you heading toward? Most people don't even realize they're using someone else's compass. Let's make it real. Picture a man who's worked 20 years in finance, wakes up at 50, and suddenly realizes he never enjoyed it. He just thought he was supposed to. Sound familiar? That's how the illusion works. It gives you a role, hands you a costume, and convinces you it's who you are. The moment you pause and ask, wait, who wrote this script? That's the crack in the system, and once the crack appears, the perception begins to shift. You start noticing that maybe, just maybe, the life you're living wasn't authored by you at all. But this rabbit hole doesn't stop at adulthood or career choices. It stretches all the way back to childhood, where the illusion truly took root. 2. Childhood. The first layer of illusion. You weren't born with beliefs. You were born with awareness, silent, present, watching. And then the world came rushing in with its labels, expectations, and invisible rules. They taught you what a tree is, what success looks like, what boys do, what girls should avoid. Your brain, still forming, absorbed it all like gospel. Not because it was true, but because it came before you had the tools to question. The illusion became the default lens through which you saw everything, including yourself. Think about it. Before you learned words, you still experienced life. The warmth of sunlight, the sensation of movement, the rhythm of your breath. That was pure perception, no story, no interpretation, just awareness. But the moment language entered the picture, it divided the world. It named everything, and in doing so, claimed control over it. You didn't just learn about the world, you learned how to see it through someone else's vocabulary. And with that, you began to forget the silence that was once so obvious. It's why you might feel a strange nostalgia when sitting alone in nature, or when music hits just right. It reminds you of something you can't quite name. That quiet, that original stillness. It's the awareness that existed before your identity was installed, Most adults carry emotional wounds that were shaped before they even understood what emotion was. A glance from a parent, a tone of voice, a feeling of being too much or not enough. These become patterns stitched into your perception of reality without your consent. To start peeling that first layer, slow down. Next time a reaction comes up, ask yourself, is this mine or was it taught? Revisit old childhood photos and look into your eyes, not the smile, not the setting, but the eyes. Do they still feel like you? Something deeper is there, something that never aged. The illusion of childhood wasn't just in what you believed, it was in how you forgot what came before the beliefs. And it gets even trickier when we start talking about the past, especially the one your mind claims as fact. 3. The story of you was never yours. Your memories feel solid, right? Like mental photographs stored on some shelf inside your head. But science and direct experience says otherwise. Memory is fluid, edited every time it's recalled. A smell, a phrase, even someone else's suggestion can rewrite what you believe actually happened. The mind doesn't archive truth, it constructs coherence. If it needs to change a detail to keep the story smooth, it will. And you'll swear it's the truth, unaware it was never yours to begin with. Think of how many times you've argued about a past event with someone, only to find both of you remember it completely differently. That's not just poor memory. That's a glitch in your perception. Your sense of self is built on these fragments. Childhood triumphs, teenage pain, the beliefs you picked up in school or from heartbreaks. But if those memories can shift, if they can be shaped or even invented, then how real is the identity they support? Your you is standing on sand, not stone. Here's a powerful practice. Write down a vivid memory from years ago, then ask a sibling or close friend who was there to tell their version. Notice the gaps, the contradictions, the emotional charge. Now sit with this question. If both memories feel true but differ, what does that say about your sense of identity? You're not discovering truth. You're watching your mind play editor. The story of you is not fixed. It's flexible, persuasive, and often fictionalized for comfort or pride. That might sound unsettling at first, but there's freedom in it. If your past is malleable, so is your present. You don't have to carry the same pain, same beliefs, same character. You can rewrite. But even that act is part of the illusion, because underneath all the editing and remembering, something isn't shifting. Something has been there the whole time, untouched by memory. But before we get to that stillness, we need to ask, what is this world we're remembering in the first place? 4. The world appears, but never is. You think you're seeing the world as it is, but you're not. You're seeing what your brain predicts. Light hits your eyes, sure, but what you see is your mind's internal rendering. The color red isn't out there, it's in your head. The sound of a voice? Just vibrations translated. Your perception is not reality. It's an internal simulation built from incomplete data, wrapped in assumption, and served to you as the world. You trust it, but you've never really questioned how filtered it all is. Think of optical illusions, or how a smell can trigger a vivid image, or how two people in the same room will describe it completely differently. It's not that one's lying, it's that both are hallucinating in parallel. Reality, as you know it, is not direct. It's reassembled behind the scenes. And that's not a metaphor, it's literal. Neuroscience shows that your brain constructs a model of the world a fraction of a second before you're even conscious of it. You're always reacting to a guess, not to what is. Let's get practical. Try this. Sit silently in a room and just look. Not at objects, but at the looking. Can you feel how everything passes through layers before it registers? The name of the object, its meaning, the feelings tied to it, all pop up without your control. You're not seeing, you're labeling, and that labeling is based on your past. What you're really seeing is old data projected onto the now. The illusion is not just in the world, it's in the very act of perceiving it. So what happens if you stop assuming your perception is trustworthy? What changes when you realize your senses aren't revealing truth, but filtering it? If the world you trust is just your brain's internal rendering, then what is actually here? What's outside the model? Or better yet, what's inside of time? Because as the image collapses, the story of linear time starts to look just as suspicious. 5. The lie of linear time. You've been taught to think of time as a straight line, past behind you, future ahead, and now as the sliver you're allowed to live in. But that's a story, a convenient one. The truth is, you never experience time directly. You remember and you anticipate, but neither of those are happening in this moment. Right now, all you ever actually know is this single slice of experience. Everything else? Mental projections, thought forms, ghosts of a timeline your awareness never actually touches. Try sitting still for 10 minutes. Just breathe and watch. Notice how quickly the mind pulls you into what happened yesterday or what needs to happen later. It's like a machine that refuses to stay here. But when you really pay attention, you'll see something wild. The moment you think about the past, it's not the past. It's a present thought about the past. The same goes for the future. You're never in time. You're just swimming in stories about it, anchored to a timeline you've never truly seen. This illusion of time creates a deeper illusion: progress. The idea that you're getting somewhere, becoming someone, building a legacy. It keeps you running, hustling, comparing. You measure your worth in years, milestones, regrets. But the moment you realize that time is a mental overlay, the pressure drops. You don't need more time. You need to see that presence, pure awareness, is already outside of it. You've never been in time. Time's just been moving through you. This doesn't mean you stop planning or showing up for your responsibilities. It just means you stop mistaking the calendar for your identity. A man might spend 30 years chasing success, then sit quietly by a lake and feel more alive in 5 seconds than he ever did in boardrooms. Why? Because time didn't give him that moment. Awareness did. The shift happens when you stop counting moments and start being one. And in that stillness, you might begin to sense something strange, that you were never the one doing the counting at all. 6. You've been the witness all along. There's a voice in your head constantly talking, commenting, judging, planning. You hear it and assume it's you. But pause for a second. If you can hear the voice, then who's listening? That silent presence that notices the chatter but doesn't speak. That's the real you. It doesn't try to fix or change the moment. It simply sees, always has. That's not a metaphor, it's an invitation. An invitation to recognize awareness, not as a thing you have, but what you are. You don't need a meditation cushion or incense to access this. Try something simple. When the mind starts spiraling, instead of diving in, ask, who's watching this? Not intellectually, just notice. There's the thought, and then there's you, the observer of it. You'll feel a subtle gap open. That's not distance in space, it's freedom in perception. You're not stuck inside the illusion. You're watching it arise and pass like clouds drifting across a sky that never moves. This is why you feel that quiet sense of something deeper when you're alone in nature, or when you're looking at your child, or even in moments of deep grief. That something isn't part of the scene. It's what's seeing the scene. You can't describe it, but it's undeniably there. It doesn't age. It doesn't panic. It doesn't care about your resume or your regrets. It was there when you were 5, it's here now, and it'll be there when this body fades. That's not mystical. It's practical awareness. And here's where things get interesting. If you've always been the watcher, and not the thoughts, not the emotions, not the roles, then what have you actually been doing all this time? What's been living your life, reacting, striving, defending? Because if you've only ever been the awareness, then maybe the world you've built around your identity was never as real as it seemed. Maybe what feels like a breakdown is actually the realization that nothing ever needed to break. 7. Reality isn't breaking. It was broken all along. Most people fear awakening because they think it means everything will collapse. Their job, their beliefs, their relationships. But here's the uncomfortable truth. It's not that reality is breaking. It was never whole to begin with. The structure you've been defending, it's made of assumptions, stitched together by perception. You weren't living in truth. You were living in a well-maintained illusion, and the cracks aren't new. They've always been there. You're just starting to see them for what they are. Think of a movie set. From the camera's angle, it looks like a full room, but step to the side and you'll see it's just plywood, held up by 2x4s. Life is like that. You believed in the walls, the roles, the scripts, but it was all propped up by conditioning, and that's not a bad thing. It's how we survive. But now you're starting to wonder what's behind the set, and maybe that's why the job feels hollow or the conversations seem scripted. You're seeing the wood behind the wallpaper. You don't need to burn everything down. You just need to stop treating the illusion like it's sacred. That feeling of something's not right is not a breakdown. It's awareness stirring. It's the mind losing its grip. And that's okay. You're not going crazy. You're just waking up. The rules you were following? Arbitrary. The goals you were chasing, often inherited. And the version of you that felt so permanent? Just another layer in a story that never had a true beginning. So now the question isn't, how do I fix this broken world? It's, was it ever whole? And if the illusion was always hollow, what's been real this entire time? What's been watching the story unfold, untouched, unaffected, and completely outside the illusion? Because if reality was never solid, then maybe you were never truly in it. Maybe you've just been dreaming. And maybe, just maybe, you were never even inside the dream to begin with. 8. Awareness was never inside the illusion. We often think of awakening like a rescue mission, pulling ourselves out of the dream, breaking chains, escaping the maze. But what if you were never in the dream to begin with? What if the one who suffered, chased, and struggled was never truly you? Awareness, the real you, never believed the illusion. It didn't wake up inside the lie. It simply watched, quietly, as the illusion played itself out like a movie. You mistook the screen for the scene, but the screen was never touched. Awareness doesn't panic, it doesn't cling, it doesn't defend an identity. Why? Because it was never inside the story. You, on the other hand, the constructed you, spent decades trying to make the dream more comfortable. You changed jobs, chased love, improved habits, but the one doing all that? A role, a beautifully convincing one. And the moment awareness remembers itself, it doesn't react. It doesn't even celebrate. It just continues watching, as it always has, in silence. Try this. Close your eyes and do nothing. Don't control your breath. Don't chase thoughts. Just notice. There's something still present even when everything else fades. Not a void, not a thought. Just this open, alert knowing. That's what you are. Not the voice, not the emotion, not the self-help version of you trying to become awakened. You are already awake because awareness never sleeps. Only the mind dreams. And you, my friend, were never the mind. So maybe there's nothing to fix, nothing to find. No deeper level to reach, because if awareness was never inside the illusion, then this whole journey wasn't about waking up at all. It was about remembering that you were never lost. But if you were never truly inside the dream, then what is this life that continues to move around you, speak through you, breathe you? What happens when even the idea of awakening dissolves?